The day I was admitted to Tsinghua University, my father had a car accident. To raise tens of thousands of yuan for the surgery fee, I gave up my chance to go to Tsinghua to the daughter of my father's boss. I went to a junior college under her name willingly. In my junior year, while preparing for the college entrance examination for undergraduates, I worked in a restaurant. Coincidentally, I met the boss's family celebrating their daughter's successful acquisition of the opportunity to go abroad for an exchange program. Inadvertently, I heard the truth about the car accident back then. It turned out that everything was a malicious design. They not only stole my life but also took the lives of my parents. After the sharp sound of brakes, I woke up and returned to my senior year of high school. This time, I will not only protect my grades and safeguard the lives of my parents but also make them pay with their blood. It hurts. It feels like all the bones in my body are crushed. I sit up suddenly. In front of me are the concerned faces of my father and mother. Luna, what's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? I am stunned. It's been a long time since anyone called me by my original name. And they clearly aren't here anymore. Looking around suspiciously, the familiar bedroom has the furnishings from 2 years ago. Even the calendar on the wall is from 2 years ago. I am reborn. Back to my senior year of high school. Anger and fear, mixed with grievance, well up in my heart. I hug my parents with inexplicable expressions and cry heartbreakingly. In my previous life. On the day I received the admission letter from Tsinghua University, my mother happily cooked a table of dishes to celebrate. What we were waiting for was the tragic news of my father's car accident. Drunk driving and rear-ending a large truck. He was the driver and was very seriously injured. Outside the operating room, facing the astronomical figure of tens of thousands of yuan, my mother and I knelt down and begged, hoping that my father's boss could lend us money to save his life. Auntie, the boss's wife, said in a cold tone, "Your father was drunk driving." Vincent, who was sitting in the back row, barely survived. Now he is still lying in the hospital bed. We were so ashamed that we felt completely embarrassed. We didn't think deeply at all. My father, who had never had a drop of alcohol when driving, why would he suddenly be drunk driving? Auntie's gaze fell on my pocket, where the admission letter I had just received was. I originally wanted to show it to my father. Now, it has become the last straw to save our lives. Trembling, I took out the admission letter from Tsinghua University, touched it, and reluctantly handed it out. Natalie has always wanted to go to Tsinghua. Now, I give this opportunity to her. Do you think it's okay? Auntie reluctantly agreed. So, Natalie became me, Luna, and walked into the hall of Tsinghua University. And I, willingly, went to a junior college under Natalie's name. It's a pity that my father was in a coma for several months after the surgery. Due to his serious injuries, he passed away. I still lost my father. My mother has always been very guilty. She felt that she had ruined my life. She worked day and night to pay off the debt and finally died of exhaustion. Even my mother left me. In the 3rd year after the college entrance examination, according to my mother's last wish, I applied for the college entrance examination for undergraduates, but still couldn't see the future. Life is full of scars. But I met Vincent's boss's family again. They were happily celebrating Natalie's successful acquisition of the opportunity to go abroad for an exchange program. And I am a waiter in a restaurant. If 2 years ago, as the daughter of a driver, compared with Natalie, the daughter of the boss of a listed company, there was a huge disparity in status. But because of my excellent grades, I never felt inferior. Now, I am standing outside the door holding a plate, clutching the corner of my work uniform. All my pride has become a joke. I feel like I have rotted in the dust. Unexpectedly, fate is cruel enough. In the mud, there will be another heavy blow. Originally, we just wanted to break his leg. But we were afraid that the surgery fee would be too little. That child might not be willing to exchange Tsinghua for money. Unexpectedly, we actually killed him. The laughter of Vincent's boss came through the crack of the door that I had just opened a little. It's better to kill him. He already knows about your adding additives to milk. There's a chance he might report it one day. Auntie also chuckled along. I deliberately reported to the worst junior college. Luna definitely can't turn things around and won't affect me anymore. By the way, Mom, change my name quickly. I don't want to use her stupid name anymore. Natalie tapped the plate and expressed her dissatisfaction. The laughter and conversation of the three people made me shudder and I couldn't breathe. It turned out that my father was killed by Vincent's boss. Because he discovered the illegal activities of Vincent's boss's company. It turned out that what I thought was that I willingly gave up my chance to go to Tsinghua. Behind it, there were actually all conspiracies and designs. Natalie's family not only stole my life but also took the lives of my parents. The blood in my body instantly turned cold, and my hands holding the plate were trembling from the cold. So malicious and terrifying. I tried to calm my breathing and slowly backed away from the corridor. Natalie, what are you doing here? The foreman behind me shouted at me harshly. Soon, the door of the private room opened from inside. Vincent's boss and Auntie came out. When they saw me, after a moment of shock, they showed a familiar kind smile. So it's Natalie. Have you been standing at the door for a long time? The smile didn't reach the bottom of their eyes, showing a hint of sinister. My mind went blank. I don't know how I responded or on what grounds I asked for leave from the foreman. There was only one thought in my heart. Run. Find relatives and friends, tell them the whole story, find the police, and ask them to investigate. Until a blinding white light flashed, accompanied by a sharp sound of brakes. A car was coming straight at me and I lost consciousness. Fortunately, the cruel fate finally showed mercy to me. I am reborn. This time, I will not only protect my grades and safeguard the lives of my parents but also make them pay with their blood. Why are you crying? Is it because of too much pressure from exams? My mother hugged me and patted my back gently. I shook my head. I have always been more than capable in my studies. I firmly hold the top spot in my grade, and I can always be more than 10 points ahead of the second place. Now I cry so bitterly because my parents, who could only be seen in photos before, are actually standing beside me alive again, with voices and warmth. This feeling of regaining what was lost is something they can't understand. Not allowing myself to indulge in the warmth of an embrace for a long time, I look at the calendar. Now, there are less than 3 months left until the college entrance examination. I must seize the time and do more important things. Sitting up straight, I be coquettish with a thick nasal voice. Mom, I'm hungry and want to drink milk. Little ancestor, I'll get it for you. Mom got up and smiled helplessly, but my eyes were firmly fixed on Dad's reaction. The boss of Vincent is the general manager of Vincent Family Dairy. Vincent Family Dairy went public 2 years ago. In this era, as the only listed company in a small city on the 38th tier, it can be described as a star enterprise. For many years, Dad has been the exclusive driver of the boss of Vincent. According to what the boss of Vincent said in the previous life, they illegally added toxic additives to milk and were discovered by Dad. However, based on his trust in the boss of Vincent, Dad actually thought he didn't know about it. When he kindly reminded him, it eventually led to a fatal disaster. So, I want to confirm whether Dad already knows about the additive matter at this time point. Dad's expression was a bit hesitant. Seeing my nervous look, he smiled. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just do your best in the college entrance examination. No matter what, Mom and Dad are here. I felt a twinge of sadness. Our family has no ambition. We live our small lives in peace. We believe that human nature is originally good, but we don't know that behind some people's masks are bloodthirsty demons. Mom came back and handed me the Vincent family pure milk that our family has always drunk. Dad hesitated to raise his hand but finally didn't stop it. It seems that Dad still doesn't know about the additive matter now. At least, he doesn't fully know. I felt a little relieved. Holding the milk in my hand, I nodded at Dad and shook it again. This time, I will definitely do my best. The next day, I went to school. Although it has been more than 2 years, I still found the classroom familiarly. Class 1, Senior 3, City Number 1 Middle School. This is the place where I have longed to return countless times in my midnight dreams. The moment I stepped into the classroom, I couldn't help but shed tears. In the previous life, in that worst junior college in the city, the 2 years of darkness almost suffocated me. No one attended classes, no one read books, everywhere there were people fighting and kissing. In the small woods at night, you could even run into people having sex. I haven't seen young people with hope on their faces in the early morning sunlight, either reciting with their heads down or discussing problems with each other for too long. No, it should be said that I have been away from the world of these people for too long. As soon as I sat down and took out my textbooks, my shoulder was suddenly slapped hard. "Why are you so late? Don't you know it's my duty today? Go and clean the blackboard." Natalie, with a head of yellow hair that was very popular at that time, ordered me arrogantly. I ignored her. Taking out a pen, I was about to write a set of test papers to practice. "It's been more than 2 years, and my hands are a bit rusty." Natalie was enraged by my attitude. Slap. She took away my pen and threw it on the ground. "Let you clean the blackboard. Are you deaf?" Only then did I look up at her and say, "It's your turn to be on duty. Why should I clean the blackboard?" She was so angry that she laughed and blew a tuft of yellow hair in front of her into the air. "Why? Because your dad is my dad's driver. You, Luna, should be my servant. Natalie has always treated me as her servant and even said it out loud without any scruples at school. In the previous life, although I felt ashamed and embarrassed, I never resisted. After all, I was also afraid that if Natalie complained to her dad because of me, it might affect Dad's job. But now, there's nothing to be afraid of anymore." I picked up the pen and stood up. I was half a head taller than Natalie and looked down at her. "My dad is your dad's employee. It's a legitimate employment relationship. He does as much work as he gets paid. How come in your eyes, my whole family is sold to you? Natalie, do you think this is in the old society where you can oppress others at will? Don't forget that we are all equal." Natalie opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. She was so angry that her face flushed red. A useless person only knows how to suppress others with status and money. Once you tear off her fierce appearance, there is only a clown inside. The classmates around began to whisper. They are all children from ordinary families. Everyone has been dissatisfied with Natalie for a long time. In the previous life, I tolerated her and never dared to intensify the conflict. Everyone's dissatisfaction was finally suppressed. But in this life, I want to make her the target of public criticism. The classes in number 1 middle school are divided according to grades. Class 1, Senior 3 gathers a group of people with the best grades in the whole grade. Natalie originally didn't have the qualification to enter. According to her high school entrance examination results, she couldn't even enter number 1 middle school. But when choosing a school for the high school entrance examination that year, I got the first place in the city. I hesitated between city number 1 middle school and the affiliated high school. I had already reported to the affiliated high school with better teachers and better promises. At the last moment, Auntie persuaded me. She talked about some so-called advantages of number 1 middle school and then said that Natalie was also in number 1 middle school. We could be picked up and dropped off together on our way to and from school. We could be companions and it would also reassure my parents. At that time, our whole family was full of gratitude. We didn't know that Auntie had actually negotiated with the school leaders of number 1 middle school long ago. As long as she could persuade me to change my report to number 1 middle school, Natalie would also be admitted to study and even directly enter class 1. Of course, Auntie also gave a large sum of school selection fee at the same time. But compared to those school selection fees, in a small place where it is difficult for us to enter a higher school, being able to attract the city's top scorer and lock in a Tsinghua University quota in advance is what the school leaders are most concerned about. So Natalie was inserted alone outside the original quota of people in class 1. But she, instead of being ashamed, took pride in it. She told others everywhere that no matter how good your academic performance is, what's the use? As long as you have money at home, you can still go to the key class of number 1 middle school. She also laughed at those of us who do exercises every day and said that we are all stupid from studying. A group of classmates who were admitted by real ability looked at her arrogant appearance and were very unhappy, especially now. Unable to find words to refute, Natalie grabbed my test paper, tore it to pieces and threw it in my face. Luna, am I giving you face? Look at your background. What a poor and humble thing. How dare you talk about equality with me? Many classmates who are also from ordinary families and eager to change their fates through learning were enraged. Slowly, they gathered around. Natalie, what do you mean? Do you think being rich at home makes you superior? That's right. It's the 21st century. Have you ever heard of common prosperity and a harmonious society? Natalie had never expected someone to accuse her. She was stunned. No, I was just scolding Luna. I didn't mean you guys. She was obviously panicked. Seeing me surrounded in the middle, still looking calm and composed. She was so ashamed and angry that she raised her hand to hit me. Instinctively, I wanted to dodge, but a big hand pushed me back. By the time I realized it, a tall figure had already stood in front of me. He grabbed Natalie's wrist. With a lazy tone but a cold voice, he said, I made the duty list. If you have any dissatisfaction, come at me. Monitor Ivan. He stood in front of me and blocked Natalie's slap. Suddenly, I recalled those messages he sent me at the end of my last life, and my eyes reddened. In my last life, because Natalie always bossed me around in the class and treated me like a servant. During my 3 years in high school, I was always used to keeping my head down and seldom talked to my classmates. With a young and sensitive heart, even if I got the best grades, I still worried whether others would look down on me. We were not familiar when we were in school, let alone after graduation. I had no contact with my high school classmates anymore. So, when I received Ivan's message after going to a junior college, I was very surprised. Luna, I went to Tsinghua University to find you. Why did they point to Natalie when I asked? Where are you now? Did she use your identity to go to Tsinghua University? Luna, are you in any trouble? I can help you. Let me help you, okay? I was very touched. Then I blocked Ivan. I did encounter difficulties, many difficulties, but I couldn't say anything. Auntie was reluctant in her tone at that time. Finally, she magnanimously agreed, it's not because of Tsinghua University. Mainly considering that your dad has worked for our family for so many years, we cannot pursue his responsibility for drunk driving. Let's just consider Vincent unlucky. And we are also willing to help you cover the cost of X yuan. But this X yuan is a loan and doesn't need to be repaid for the time being. But if she didn't continue. I understood that if I wasn't obedient and caused trouble for them, then this X yuan debt would weigh on us. That day, she held a recording pen and recorded every word I said. It was I who deliberately used Natalie's identity to go to school, and it was also I who took the initiative to ask to forge and swap the school records and household registration materials of the two people. I was the one who broke the law. Later, every time my mom thought of this recording, she would regretfully slap herself. Luna, it's your parents who are useless and have ruined all your paths. I hugged her, and we could only cry. What could we do? At that time, Dad was lying in the operating room waiting for first aid. That was life-saving money. Not a minute could be delayed. We couldn't bargain. We could only be manipulated. After that, we were still grateful and knelt down to thank Vincent's boss and his family. All the grievances could only be deeply swallowed. I secretly kept Ivan's information. Late at night, whenever I couldn't sleep because of the noise of my roommate making phone calls, I would take it out and look at it. Especially after Mom passed away, I often looked at these messages and reminded myself over and over again. Your name is Luna, not Natalie. There are still people in this world who care about you. In this life, now, I stand behind Ivan. The corner of the young man's school uniform with a faint soap fragrance was lifted by the breeze. Suddenly, I was a little dazed. In my last life, maybe this young man also wanted to stand in front of me like this to help and protect me. Natalie's arrogance was immediately extinguished when facing Ivan. She likes Ivan. The whole class knows it. Natalie lowered her head and said reluctantly, I have no dissatisfaction with the duty list you made. Then she turned her face and glared at me viciously and went to clean the blackboard. Ivan turned around, looked at me, and showed a somewhat naughty smile. He whistled melodiously and left. In 2.5 years of high school, we didn't say much. It was the same this time. But a little girl named Cindy came over and pulled my sleeve. Her voice was timid. Luna, don't be sad. My dad is also a driver, the kind who drives a big truck. What's wrong with being poor? The money my dad earns is all clean. He never feels inferior. A person who had never had any interaction in my last life now seriously uses herself as an example to comfort me. I nodded at her. Well, before Cindy turned around, I hesitated and opened my mouth, pointing at the first mock exam paper in her hand. The answer to that question is too complicated. If you need it, I can teach you a simpler algorithm. This was also the first time that I tentatively took the initiative to release kindness. The girl with a small bun face and a pair of almond-shaped eyes widened immediately. Yes, I need it. It's great that the top student in the grade can explain questions to me. At noon, Cindy asked me if I wanted to go to the cafeteria together. In the past, as soon as class was over, I would run to the cafeteria to grab food for Natalie, pack it and bring it back to her. I would eat and do problems at my seat. This was the first time someone invited me to have a meal together. I agreed without thinking. Only when we arrived did we find that there were not only the two of us. Several people occupied a table and greeted us to sit with them. Senior year is very intense. While eating, everyone discussed the just ended first mock exam. Someone nudged the classmate who was talking eloquently. The top student in the grade is here. What are you showing off for? When that person turned his face and saw me, he immediately shut up and his face turned red all of a sudden. I quickly waved my hand. No. I didn't think of the solution he just said. Can you continue? Only then did that classmate perk up and raise his eyebrows. I said so. My thinking is very novel. With one word from you and one word from me, we analyzed that big problem and the corresponding question types thoroughly. Finally, that classmate looked at me and sighed leisurely. Luna, I didn't expect you to be so approachable. In my astonishment, the people next to me also nodded. Approachable? I silently recited these 4 words in my heart and wanted to laugh. This is overestimating me too much. Not to mention that Natalie hasn't even looked at me properly now. Later, I mean in the future of my previous life. If they knew that I had delivered takeout, washed dishes, and worked as a waiter, would anyone still use the 4 words approachable to describe me? Just as I was thinking, a bottle of Coke suddenly appeared in front of me. Looking along the distinct knuckled hand holding the Coke, what I saw was Ivan's smiling face. He carried a dinner plate from the table behind, took a long stride and forced his way to sit opposite me. Immediately, the 2 boys beside me were squeezed and grimaced. You started eating in the cafeteria? Come to our table next time, Ivan said with a smile. His peach blossom eyes curved up and were extremely bright. Cindy exaggeratedly gestured to block in front of me. No, Luna is sitting with us. She has to explain questions to us. Ivan said, oh, all right then. In the future, I'll come to your table. I also want to listen. The 2 boys beside looked shocked and hopeless. When I returned to the classroom, I was a bit later than Cindy and them. As expected, Natalie was already waiting at the door. Me. Food. Where? She squeezed out 3 words through her teeth. Originally, I still wanted to pretend to have forgotten, but now I can't even be bothered to be perfunctory her. No. I walked past her. Natalie grabbed my sleeve and pulled me back forcefully. Luna, aren't you afraid that I'll ask my dad to fire your dad? Just as I hoped. I really hope he can be fired. Hurry up. If my parents didn't still have a good person filter for Boss Vincent's family right now and I couldn't find a suitable reason, I would have persuaded my dad to quit long ago. It would be best if nothing is discovered and we live a peaceful life. I pried apart her fingers one by one. Do as you please. Natalie was almost driven crazy. Say it again? In the classroom, the classmates who were sleeping on their desks were woken up. Natalie, can you shut up? Don't bully Luna anymore. A roar, and then silence. Very good. This is the effect I want. The reason why Natalie dares to covet my grades. On the one hand, it's because their family has ways to fake things. On the one hand, she's convinced that I won't take the initiative to report it. In this way, this matter of taking someone else's place to enter Tsinghua University will be completely covered up between our two families. Even people in this small city won't know. She doesn't even need to worry about whether classmates will find out about this matter and ask and investigate. In my previous life, I was really too helpless. It was those messages from Ivan that reminded me. In this life, I want Natalie to know that even if I can't speak up, there will be people who will speak up for me. If she really wants to do something to me, she should also be fearful and cautious. At the very least, even if she finally succeeds, I want their whole family to be in a state of unease and unable to sleep at night. Natalie was frightened by the roar, her eyes were red. I didn't bully her. It's that she didn't bring me food. Don't you have legs? Why should Luna bring you food? She has brought you food for more than 2 years. Have you said a word of thanks? You are really spoiled by us. That's right. Do you think we can't see if you bully her? Do you really think your family is so great just because they sell milk? Don't look down on others. Suppressed, accumulated, and empathetic dissatisfaction poured out on Natalie. She was so frightened that she stood still. Perhaps she has been arrogant since childhood and will never understand that people may indeed bow to money and power for a while, but they will not tolerate endless trampling. Natalie finally ran out of the classroom crying. I was very calm throughout, but the classmates still came over one by one to comfort me. It's okay, I said. I can get rid of her soon. After school in the evening, I went over to help Natalie pack her school bag. This is a habit left over from 3 years of high school. Her eyes were swollen like eggs. When she saw me, she was still fierce. Humph, do you finally know you are wrong? I put her books, notebooks, and pens that were placed messily in order. Some were put into the desk drawer, and those needed for tonight were put into the school bag. The driver will come to pick you up later. Can you give me a ride? I said in a low voice. Natalie suddenly laughed. Now that you need my help and know you are afraid? Luna, see clearly what you are. Of course, she didn't let the driver give me a ride in the end. On the way home on foot, a long leg suddenly stretched out diagonally in front. I was so lost in thought that I almost tripped. Sorry. Ivan grabbed my arm and apologized with a smile, then he tilted his chin backward. Number 1 in the grade, do you want me to give you a ride? Bicycle, teenager, cool night breeze. I couldn't help but narrow my eyes and take a deep breath. Okay. When I got home, I told my mom that I had to write test papers and not to disturb me. Sitting at the desk, I took out my phone. I opened a software. There, it showed that the recording was still continuing. Clicking in, the voices of Natalie and Auntie were clearly transmitted. At noon, I left the cafeteria earlier than Cindy and them, but returned to the classroom later than them. In the meantime, I ran to buy a voice recorder. It can be remotely controlled and monitored. It's very high-tech and expensive. It used up the pocket money I had saved for many years. But it's worth it. When I was helping Natalie with her school bag, I put it in a compartment she wouldn't notice. Before, I had been thinking, what was the cause of those malicious schemes in my previous life? Using the accident that killed my dad to force me to propose changing schools. Was it because my dad discovered their illegal activities, or just because they coveted my grades? What exactly was it that could make them be so cruel to the living and familiar people around them? And these people, even before they died, were still thanking them for their care over the years and thanking them for not pursuing drunk driving and calling them good people. Natalie was angered by me today and frightened by the classmates. She will definitely cry and complain to Auntie. I need to know more. Why did Uncle Wang say again that we can't change the test papers? I've already told my classmates that I can go to Tsinghua University. Mom, you can't let me be embarrassed. Natalie's voice. Around the first mock exam, Natalie did say in the class that she could also go to Tsinghua University in the future. I thought she was planning a last-minute assault. Although I thought it was very unclear-headed, I didn't think much about it. I didn't realize at all that behind it was such a disgusting plan. Auntie sighed. Your Uncle Wang said it's too risky. Although it's not so strictly regulated here, but his relative in the Education Bureau also dare not do it. This can't be done and that can't be done. Isn't it just the college entrance examination? Uncle Wang brags all day about how capable he is and how many people he knows. But he can't even handle such a small matter. I closed my eyes and was speechless. She is really ignorant and arrogant. Baby, if it really doesn't work, let's go abroad. I will also persuade your dad. Although its gold content is not as high as that of Tsinghua University, as long as we spend money. No. I want Tsinghua. Why can Luna go and I can't? Isn't Dad also always angry that I am not as good as the daughter of that driver? In fact, it's best if Luna takes the initiative to change with you. At that time, ask Uncle Wang to help with the school roll materials, and there is no need to worry about being reported. Luna is not stupid. How could she take the initiative to change? Give her money? 2 million? I don't want to give her a penny. Auntie chuckled. Baby, everything that can be solved with money is not a problem. What's wrong with giving her several million? The worry is that she won't take the money. If that's the case. After waiting for a few minutes, there was no follow-up. Natalie was also impatient. If that's the case, then what? If that's the case, leave it to Mom and Dad. Don't worry, baby. By the way, will my classmates report it? They are so nosy all day long and it's so annoying. It seems that a classmate's relative is a policeman. Then I have to discuss it well with your dad and Uncle Wang. I really couldn't listen anymore, so I pressed mute. Natalie and her mom, how can they talk about how to steal someone else's college entrance examination results in such a relaxed tone? Just like discussing how to make a dish, what they are taking bite by bite is someone else's life. After being comforted by Auntie, Natalie's mood was obviously much better. She even daydreamed about the scene where I changed schools with her. She said that she would deliberately do worse in the exam and then apply to the worst junior college, so that after I enter, I will have no way out. She was also worried that I would go to repeat my senior year and the matter of fake materials would be exposed and affect her future. She discussed with Auntie that she must cut off all my thoughts. In short, she wants me to bear a name that doesn't belong to me and rot in the mud. Listening to their laughter coming through the current, I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave and was shaking non-stop. Because of these, although it's just a daydream now. In my previous life, it actually happened to me vividly and bloodily. At that time, I had so many assumptions. I thought that with Natalie's level, she did so poorly in the exam because she didn't perform well. She applied to that school because she made a wrong choice by accident. I thought that although Auntie put forward some conditions, it was also a last resort. Telling me not to repeat my senior year and hide my identity was also because she was worried that I would be caught. Now it seems that it's not that I am too stupid, but that they are far more malicious than I imagined. I loosened my tightly clenched fist. The palm was almost bleeding from my pinching. I saved the recording, made a backup, and uploaded it to an internet cloud drive. Although at this time, cloud drives have only emerged for a few years and their stability is in doubt, just in case, I have to make the worst plan. Knock knock. The door was knocked. Luna, have you finished the test paper? I have something important to tell you. Dad is back. It seems that he already knows something. Fortunately, I was already well prepared and also had something important to give him. Dad doesn't look very well. As soon as he entered my bedroom, he looked around first. Luna, there is no Vincent family milk left here, right? I shook my head. That's good. I found that all the pure milk at home has expired today. I quickly asked your mom to throw it away. Don't drink it anymore in the future. My heart sank. Sure enough, he knows. Last night, I tested Dad. Seeing his hesitant expression, I guessed that he might have just found something. Now it seems that he has found the answer. For the first time, I hope that Dad could be a little less sensitive. I took out the report card of the first mock exam and handed it to him. Dad, am I smart? First in grade again. Luna is of course smart. He has always been very proud of me. I looked steadily into his eyes. Then your smart daughter already knows about the additives in milk. Do you want to discuss it with me? Dad's face instantly turned pale. How do you know? Of course, I can't say it's because of reincarnation. That would be too terrifying. I casually made an excuse, I guessed. The ingredients of milk are supposed to be as simple as possible. If there is a problem, it must be that something that shouldn't be added has been added. Dad, you have never been so nervous. Is the matter very serious? He sighed and hesitated for a long time. Finally, he took out a stool from the side and sat down. Luna, Dad is very confused. I never thought that the company that I watched develop little by little with my own eyes could have such a thing happen. Dad has been working at Vincent Family Dairy with Boss Vincent for nearly a year. Although he is just a driver, he is sincerely proud of the company. A local small company also encountered difficult times when it couldn't collect milk. It only gradually became famous across the country through publicity in the past 2 years. With the promotion of the government, it went public by taking advantage of the situation and became the only listed company in our small place. It can be said that Dad has grown up with this company step by step. This is also the reason why I can't easily persuade him to leave. Dad said that he accidentally discovered that there are illegal additives in the company's main pure milk. Although the detected protein content is very high, it is actually harmful to the human body. Dad, what are you going to do? Surely I have to tell Boss Vincent. He is always busy with major matters of financing and expansion. If his subordinates do this and he finds out late. Sure enough, his first reaction is that Boss Vincent is innocent. How are you going to tell Boss Vincent? Naturally, I have to give him evidence. Otherwise, just empty words. Boss Vincent will think that I am slandering colleagues in the production department. It seems that in my previous life, Dad showed evidence to Boss Vincent, fearing that he would be kept in the dark. Naturally, Boss Vincent will not thank Dad for his kind reminder. He will only be wary that he has been caught with a handle. Dad, everything you said is based on the premise that Boss Vincent doesn't know. I leaned closer and said word by word, if he knows? Even if it is arranged by him himself? Dad froze like a piece of wood. He shook his head subconsciously and muttered, impossible. Vincent is not that kind of person. We have worked together for more than 10 years. He has always been a good person. I sighed. I took out my phone and clicked on a recording. Natalie, did you drink this box of milk? Auntie's voice was high-pitched due to nervousness. No. Didn't you tell me not to drink our milk? Natalie sounded confused. That's good. That's good. Remember, don't drink our milk at all, especially pure milk. Auntie reminded again. When helping Natalie pack her school bag, I deliberately put an empty box of Vincent Family Pure Milk on top of all her books. It was very conspicuous. Auntie's reaction had already explained everything. Dad widened his eyes in disbelief. After a while, he pulled the corner of his mouth, a wry smile. We are all parents. How could they do such a thing? He looked out of the window at the boundless moonlight. Since last year, the Vincent family has negotiated with the primary schools in the counties and townships below. They have added pure milk to their nutrition menu. They also told customers that the ingredients of Vincent family milk are only raw milk, and even newborns can drink it. Luna, do you know how many children there are? Tens of thousands. Dad, what are you going to do? I asked this question again. Dad turned his face, his eyes losing their luster. Luna, what do you want Dad to do? Yes, although Dad is kind to others and honest and loyal, he is not stupid. He knows that if it is Vincent's boss who instigates these illegal activities, the nature changes. This means that if he wants to expose this matter, standing on the opposite side is Vincent's boss. Even, it is the entire Vincent family dairy industry. In my previous life, I was indifferent to worldly affairs and didn't notice these. I didn't know that the Vincent family had been losing money for several consecutive years after going public. I only remembered seeing some news occasionally. At first, there were posts exposing toxic milk and reports of infants dying after drinking milk. But soon, the news was suppressed. However, the public's mouth is hard to cover, and those young lives that carry the happiness of the whole family will not be ignored casually. The power of public opinion is gradually rising. In my impression, finally, the Food Supervision Bureau issued a notice to investigate the Vincent family dairy industry. Unfortunately, by then, too many people and families had paid the price. If I say that I hope you don't get involved, and our family hides far away and lives our own life well, is that okay? I asked. Dad sighed deeply. Of course it's okay. As the head of the family, I should not let my wife and children be frightened. You are so busy with the college entrance examination, and I still let you worry. Even, he glanced at my phone. The interface was on the software that controls the voice recorder. Even letting you get involved in these adult matters is something I haven't done as a father. Although a decision has been made, Dad looks indescribably dejected. We are very clear that keeping silent means watching tens of thousands of children suffer. Perhaps we will feel uneasy for the rest of our lives. I bit my lower lip tightly. When putting the stool back, Dad obviously staggered. It was like he had suddenly aged several years. There was too much information this night. The trusted old friend, the proud career, and the principles of being a person were all completely overturned. His hand even trembled a little when opening the door. Dad. Let's make them pay the price, I said in a low voice to his back. Dad turned around in a daze. What? Vincent's boss, we need to make them pay the price. For deceiving the company and harming customers. And for the malicious harm to our family, we must make them pay the price. The light that had originally gone out in Dad's eyes was rekindled. Okay. I hid the fact of my rebirth and didn't mention that Natalie planned to change schools with me. I combined the news of my previous life and this life and shared it with Dad. Finally, we decided to secretly collect illegal evidence of Vincent's boss on the premise of protecting the safety of the whole family. Wait for the right time to report their illegal activities. A listed company can indeed bring a lot of resources and conveniences, enabling them to publicize away unfavorable news drafts. But on the other side of power is restraint. The higher one stands, the more pairs of eyes are constantly watching. If one falls, it will be even harder. After the third mock exam, it's time to start adjusting the learning rhythm between tension and relaxation. Lulu, the art committee member, came to my desk and spoke a little unnaturally. I'm having my birthday on the weekend and want to invite everyone to relax. Luna, would you like to come? I was a little surprised. In my previous life, no one invited me to a birthday party. Generally, they would invite. I subconsciously looked in Natalie's direction. During this period of time, she hasn't bullied me again, but occasionally she would look at me silently and show an evil smile. Although I know what this means, in the eyes of others, they only think the atmosphere between us is strange. Lulu obviously understood what I was worried about and lowered her voice. Don't worry. If you promise to come, I won't invite Natalie. Actually, I didn't want to invite her in the first place. I hesitated and didn't answer. Lulu said again, come on. Otherwise, Ivan can't come either. I turned to Ivan in surprise. Sure enough, he was looking at me and crooked his mouth with a naughty smile. What does it matter if I go or not to him? Lulu sneered. You don't know. His uncle is a policeman and very serious. He said that I must bring the top student in the grade. Otherwise, if I go, my leg will be broken. It's quite funny. I nodded and agreed. Natalie soon knew that she wasn't invited, but I was invited to the birthday party. This was an absolute humiliation for her. How could the daughter of a driver like me be more popular than her? Just you still attend other people's birthday parties? What to wear? School uniform? Or my discarded old skirt? What birthday gift are you going to give? Don't tell me it's a taxi coupon. Ha ha ha. If it were me in my previous life, I would still consider myself having a backbone at this time. After hearing these words, I might feel ashamed. But later, after experiencing the time when I was overwhelmed by debts and 3 meals a day, no matter how harsh the taunts are, I can let them in one ear and out the other. But Ivan is not. He walked up to me and distanced himself from Natalie. You don't need to worry about these things. You weren't even invited. What are you blabbering about? Natalie was really about to explode. Lulu's birthday party is arranged for the evening. In the afternoon, Ivan asked me out. Under the pretext of asking questions, he took me to buy clothes by bike. The little thoughts of teenagers are actually quite easy to see through. At the moment I received his message, I even thought it was childish. But when I tried on one dress after another and was stared at brightly by his eyes, listening to him rack his brains to say some idioms that didn't make sense at all to praise me, I still couldn't help but have my heart beat faster. The more one struggles in the dirty mud, the more one is moved by cleanliness and purity. Until I put on a white dress, Ivan's eyes widened obviously. Then he shook his head again. No, no. Is it really not okay? I think this one is beautiful. Ivan looked very annoyed. It's not okay precisely because it's beautiful. Number 1 in grade, you said you have good grades. If people find out that you are so beautiful, you definitely won't notice me anymore. I pretended to hit him. Putting my arm around his nape and pulling him down, I said, don't slander people. I have 2 eyes. How could I not see you? Ivan's face flushed to the tips of his ears, and his Adam's apple rolled rapidly. He walked to the front desk with his hands and feet out of sync to pay the bill. To thank Ivan, I treated him to milk tea, from Shuawang. It was his request. He said that Shuawang's lemonade is the best in the world and asked me to buy 3 cups for him. By the roadside, we sat under the shade of a tree. Are you afraid that your uncle will know that you are going to Lulu's birthday party because he will also be there? Yes. At 18, it's a rite of passage. Lulu's grandfather wants to hold a grand celebration. The old man was in the political and legal system before retirement. My uncle was his apprentice and will definitely be there. Is your uncle really that scary? You look so funny when you're afraid. Stop talking. He's just an old-fashioned person who only recognizes the hard truth. If I hadn't said that the number 1 in grade would also be there, he would definitely have told my mom to handcuff me at home. I took a sip of lemonade, sour and astringent. I asked in a low voice, then, does your uncle have children? Ivan spread his long legs wide and stretched. Yes. My aunt just gave birth to a chubby little boy. She's still on maternity leave. I nodded. I had a plan in mind and didn't speak anymore. The afternoon sun was scorching hot. I raised my face, wanting the light to penetrate deeper and pierce through all the haze in my heart. At the birthday party, I gave Lulu a collection of exam points. It was mine. There are not many days left before the college entrance examination. Doing a lot of practice questions is not very useful. What's more important is to sort out and condense knowledge points. Lulu opened many gifts throughout the evening, including food, clothes, and toys. My exercise book was just wrapped casually in colored paper and looked very shabby. But when she flipped through it page by page, she directly screamed out, "Grandpa, I think I'm definitely going to pass the exam." Other people also gathered around and asked me, "Luna, I have my birthday next month. Can you give me a gift in advance?" Oh no. My birthday has already passed. Can my birthday next year be brought forward to this year? At the end of the birthday party, a group of people actually gathered together to discuss exam points. The adults looked at it and were also amused and helpless. When I got home, it was already a bit late. Unexpectedly, Dad was sitting in the living room waiting for me. His expression was a bit serious. "Luna, Boss Vincent said that he will give me a vacation starting tomorrow. Do you think he has found out something?" Originally, I had drunk a little fruit wine and was a bit groggy. But Dad's words instantly woke me up. In my previous life, after my college entrance examination, Boss Vincent also gave Dad a period of vacation, under the pretext of letting him accompany me to have a good time. But one early morning, He called him and asked him to drive to a place to pick someone up temporarily. It was on that day. The admission letter, the car accident, the surgical expenses, and the exchange of schools came one after another. The fate of our family has changed since then. Now it seems that abrupt vacation was to keep Dad away from the company's affairs and also to facilitate Boss Vincent to arrange a drunk driving accident. I washed my face with cold water and my mind was completely clear. Sitting opposite Dad, I pondered the differences between this life and the previous life. Dad, is it possible that you were discovered when you were collecting materials? Dad thought for a while. It shouldn't be. We made it very clear that we only need to collect evidence and attract the attention of the relevant departments. So I have never touched the core things. His clenched hands suddenly tightened. Could it be? Louis? Louis is the captain of the security team at the Vincent family. He has known Dad for many years. Yesterday, a person came to the company gate to defend his rights. His child who is several months old got kidney stones because he drank Vincent's family's milk. When I was collecting materials, I contacted him privately. When that person met me at the gate, he nodded slightly. It might have been seen by Louis. I continued his words. Louis noticed this small anomaly. Although he didn't understand the reason, after much thought, he still reported it to Boss Vincent and took credit for it. Dad rubbed his hair in distress. Louis shouldn't. There is no should and no thought. After experiencing the previous life, I have long lost my expectations for people's hearts. But we still need to determine if Boss Vincent already knows. Only by knowing the enemy's movements can we formulate the next strategy. We woke Mom up. She was originally groggy and complaining, but seeing me and Dad, both more serious than the other, she also became serious. Mom, invite Louis's wife to go shopping with you tomorrow. Mom looked at the time. It's almost midnight. Isn't it too strange to invite someone to go shopping now? It's precisely because it's strange. Sure enough, Louis's wife agreed in a daze at first. But after a few minutes, she called back and said that she suddenly remembered that she had something to do tomorrow. It seems that Louis's wife found it strange and told Louis about it. He stopped her. It's very clear. Whether out of guilt or fear, Louis wants to draw a clear line from my family. I coaxed Mom to go back to sleep. Dad and I exchanged a glance. We had to prepare for the worst. The period before the college entrance examination was the last tranquility. Andy also asked Natalie how I was recently and urged her not to affect my exam. I wanted to laugh when I heard this. Just like a kind butcher who plays music for the cow before slaughtering it for fear of poor beef texture. Before the exam, I gave Ivan a neatly folded note. If one day you find that you can't find me no matter what, open it and read. He blinked. Does this mean that you can be found by me no matter what? This deduction is also very logical. He excitedly kissed the note again and again, put it in his pants pocket and patted it. This is my lucky charm. Well, take it out. This is considered bringing in notes secretly in the examination room. Oh. After the college entrance examination ended, I didn't feel relaxed at all. Instead, I felt even more nervous. Boss Vincent should take action. Nervous, worried, and frightened. Although I was prepared, I still worried about unexpected events. And any unexpected event may mean a repeat of the nightmare of my previous life. On the day when the scores were released. Early in the morning, a call came, asking Dad to pick up someone temporarily. They advanced their plan and couldn't even wait for the admission notice. It seems that in this life, Boss Vincent thinks that Dad's secret investigation has completely put him on the opposite side. Boss Vincent is really in a hurry. On the phone, Boss Vincent's tone was as gentle as ever. He said sorry for disturbing our father and daughter's vacation and warmly wished me to get a high score. Really, even in this life, although I already know his plan, I still can't imagine that these words that sound so pleasant hide such malicious intentions behind. I didn't even check my score and just sat on the sofa. Waiting. Mom thought I was worried about my score. She stroked my back again and again to comfort me. Don't be nervous. The phone rang, startling me and making me drop the cup in my hand on the ground. I picked up the phone. There was noisy talking. Are you James's family? There was a drunk driving accident. Come to the hospital quickly. In the hospital. It's a very familiar scene. The lights on in the operating room, nurses running around, and one critical illness notice after another to be signed. When Mom heard that the initial operation fee would cost tens of thousands of yuan, her legs suddenly went weak and she almost knelt down. I pulled her up and helped her sit on the seat next to me. I walked towards Auntie with a cold expression beside me. Your dad was drunk driving and even got Vincent seriously injured. She glared at me. What did Mom and I answer in our previous life to this sentence? Sorry, Auntie. He is usually very reliable. I don't know why he was drunk driving this time. But human life is at stake. Can you please lend us money so that we can have the operation done first? But now, I only feel exhausted. Auntie, tell me, which operation in here is Uncle Vincent's? She was stunned. What do you mean? Are you refusing to take responsibility? I shook my head and didn't want to get entangled in these things. The operation fee is needed so urgently. As you know, we can't afford it at all. We can only borrow money from you. I know what you and Natalie want. Let's find a place to talk. In a cafe next to the hospital. In a quiet compartment. I slowly stirred my latte. Auntie on the opposite side was rather uneasy. It has always been like this. The more flustered I am, the calmer the other party will be and watch the show. And the calmer I am, the more turbulent the other party's heart will be. Luna, Auntie knows that this incident was so sudden that you, a child, must be frightened. She put her hand on the back of my hand. It was delicate, soft and cold, like a slithering snake. I pulled my hand back and ignored her hypocritical comfort. I chuckled. Auntie, the plan went smoothly, right? She was stunned for a moment, and the concern on her face slowly faded. What do you know? Putting down the coffee cup, I pursed my lips. I know everything. All this, when put into words, is also the accumulation of long-standing dissatisfaction. You and Uncle Vincent are good in every way. You earn a lot of money and are successful in your careers. But the only thing that makes you feel like a fishbone stuck in your throat is Natalie's poor grades. It's really embarrassing that she is not as good as the daughter of the driver. So, you had a good idea. Why not just take my grades and change my school? The college entrance examination is very serious, but money and connections have made you feel omnipotent. You found someone in the education bureau and promised to help you swap grades or tamper with materials. You arrogantly think that as long as you give money, what can't you buy? Of course, you are also worried. What if? What if I don't sell? Then force it. This idea was just a rudiment at first. You also think that it's not necessary to kill or set fires for this. Until Uncle Vincent realized that my dad had discovered his illegal activities in the Vincent family. Because the company has been suffering losses continuously, he actually added harmful additives to pure milk to reduce the cost that raw milk should have. Not only that, knowing that the additives will have a huge poisonous effect on children, he still insanely develops the market for primary schools and infants for the sake of increasing profits. Why is he so bold? Still because of arrogance. He knows that the market in counties and townships is really sinking. People here are poor and uneducated. The name of a listed company can scare them so much that they dare not defend their rights, just like your judgment of our whole family. Poor, yet simple and honest. Stage a fake car accident and hit my dad so hard that he's half dead. Uncle Vincent then pretends to be seriously injured. All the responsibility can be pushed onto my dad. In this way, my mom and I, in shame and anxiety, will only ask for forgiveness and only ask for a loan. What can we offer in exchange? Only a Tsinghua University admission letter can catch your family's eye. What a wonderful plan. Eliminating my dad, such a potential threat, and sending Natalie to Tsinghua University. Finally, the responsibility for the car accident lies with my dad, and the responsibility for impersonation and changing schools lies with me. Your whole family is still very kind and is thanked and respected by us. Ding. I tapped the cup wall with a spoon and looked up. Auntie, am I right? What are you talking about? I don't understand. Auntie picked up her coffee cup. Her hands were shaking, and the spilled liquid soiled her expensive suit. If you don't understand. Then all of this was led by Natalie, because it was she who told me this plan. After my dad left after receiving Uncle Vincent's call, I received another call. Guess who it was from? Can you imagine how happy Natalie is? She knew the plan had succeeded. She was as happy as if she had been admitted to Tsinghua University and shared her so-called path to education with me. I still smiled. But my voice was already shaking with excitement. Snap. Auntie slammed the cup on the table, and coffee spilled all over the table. Don't slander our Natalie. She knows nothing. We didn't tell her anything about additives or fake car accidents. I finally heaved a long sigh. Oh, admitted it. Auntie also quickly realized it, and her face turned as white as paper. The veins on her forehead bulged. She grabbed the table knife beside her and stabbed at me. Luna, what on earth are you doing? What do you mean by all this? I just blocked it with my hand and didn't move anymore, letting blood gush out from the knife wound. To prevent her from being too excited, I even slowly opened my hands. A gesture of surrender. I said all this just to beg you. My dad is still lying in the operating room, waiting for emergency money. I can't do anything. I can only beg you. Beg you to lend us money. Beg you to let us go. 11. Auntie let out a low laugh. Unable to restrain herself, it was like a sickness. You are indeed very clever. Indeed, you can't do anything now because only if I give money can I save your dad. 13. Lending you money is fine, but I also want Tsinghua University. We have planned for so long. It can't end up in vain. 14. Little kid, you should know that even if your dad survives this car accident, there may be a next time. 15. She threw the table knife away frivolously and shook her head. 16. It seems that being clever is really useless. At critical moments, money can save lives. 17. But do you think I really believe that your long speech is just to beg me? She stood up and walked to my side. She snatched my backpack. All the zippers were opened, and the opening was facing down. She shook it hard, and everything in the backpack instantly fell out. She kicked and sorted through with her toes, picking until she saw something and her eyes lit up. 20. A voice recorder. Huh, little kid. It seems this is your backup plan. 21. Don't look so bad. If you want to cry, cry. Auntie has taught you a lesson. A child's cleverness is always just petty cleverness. 22. Auntie threw the voice recorder into my coffee cup, stirred it, picked it up, and threw it out of the window, watching helplessly as a car ran over it. With her beautiful hair and suit, she raised her chin and walked out of the compartment gracefully. I crouched down and picked up the things in my backpack one by one. Calmly waiting outside, a sharp shout came, "Don't move." I walked out of the compartment. Outside were policemen with guns. Auntie had been controlled. Her previously meticulous hair was now messily spread out. 27. Why arrest me? What crime have I committed? You have no evidence. I shook the black recorder in my hand before it was installed under the table. 29. Auntie, hasn't your great cleverness figured it out yet? The police didn't appear out of thin air. They had already set up an ambush here. They heard clearly your confession of your crime just now. 31. The voice recorder you threw away? Huh, I didn't even turn it on. 32. She finally stopped struggling and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Helpless and ruined by greed and arrogance, Ivan rushed over and hugged me tightly. So tightly that it was as if he wanted to press me into his bones. 34. Cough. I reminded him. Sorry, did I hurt you? Ivan hurriedly pulled away. I tilted my head to the side. Two people with unfriendly expressions were staring straight at us. My dad and his uncle. His uncle was cursing, "Stinky kid. If it weren't for your decent exam results, I'd break your leg." 37. Dad didn't have the energy to scold me at all. Just now, he heard the whole process of my confrontation with Auntie outside. Still feeling a lingering fear. In the morning, as soon as he arrived at the place designated by Boss Vincent, he was protected by the police. The police arranged a bloody drunk driving accident scene that Boss Vincent needed. A group of people hid well and watched him pretend to be injured and squeeze himself into the back row where the collision was not so serious. Of course, there are people arranged by Boss Vincent in the hospital, but they have been arranged by the police. The rest is all a stage for Boss Vincent and Auntie to perform. Luna, it's Dad who didn't protect you well and let you face so many things alone. Dad's eyes were red and his voice trembled. As before, I pulled his big hand and acted coquettishly. Dad, being protected by you and Mom, and being able to protect you are all things that make me happy and grateful. 45. In my previous life, the loneliness and helplessness of losing everything still wakes me up from dreams from time to time. Dad and I comforted each other. Ivan was helping me treat my wound on one side. Fortunately, that knife cut was not deep. Many times, the boss looked at his clumsy bandaging gestures and wanted to say something but stopped. Finally, forget it. If it's ugly, what can be done? Before taking Auntie away, there was suddenly a commotion outside, and a bunch of reporters with cameras and long guns and short cannons came. Ivan's uncle looked at me, and I looked at him. This part was not arranged by us. Originally, I thought it was the affairs of Vincent's family that attracted reporters. It's not at all. It turned out that it was because I got the top score in the city. In my previous life, this college entrance examination was the junction of light and darkness in my life. I took out this set of test questions from time to time and did them over and over again. Unexpectedly, this time, while being preoccupied with thinking about when Boss Vincent would make a move, I didn't pay attention and got a bit too high a score. I should have deliberately answered a few questions wrong. But there is one advantage of having the aura of the top scorer. Those reporters originally just wanted to interview me about my path to learning. Unexpectedly, they got a big scoop. So, the intricate power network behind Boss Vincent, which even Ivan's uncle was worried could not be shaken, was exposed to everyone's view. And those recordings I got before, after all, were recorded privately and cannot be used as legal evidence. But as material for posting, it is enough. Without adding any embellishments, the real original sound can make netizens furious. It turns out that the products of the listed company they trusted actually have such serious quality problems. It turns out that for the sake of profit, they can even be so cruel as to target students and children. For a while, public resentment boiled over. The seemingly unshakable Vincent family dairy industry, with a big tree to rely on, collapsed overnight and was in a mess. Auntie was arrested and waited to be sentenced. Boss Vincent heard the news first and fled. In the Vincent Family Dairy Rights Protection Group, the parents who had lost their children or were watching their children being devoured by illness received a message from an anonymous user. There are several very detailed addresses. And a warm reminder: abide by the law and do not have excessive behavior. 3 days later, the news of Boss Vincent's death became the headlines of all major local newspapers. Just as earth-shattering as when the Vincent family went public successfully back then. Dad has been Boss Vincent's driver for years with dedication. Natalie came to plead with me, hoping that Auntie could be sentenced more leniently. But still with an arrogant tone. I looked at this person in front of me who was still arrogant even in poverty and smiled. Natalie, when you wanted to harm me, you were very scared, right? How worried you were that I would turn over and seek revenge on you. But I don't have any feelings for you. Do you know why? I smiled and tore up the check she handed over and threw it in her face. Because you are just a puddle of mud and can never get up again. Oh, right. Before leaving, I kindly reminded, assets have been frozen, so checks are useless. You'd better find a job. My judgment of Natalie was completely correct. 2 years later, someone posted in the high school group that she had committed suicide by jumping off a building. Before jumping off the building, she pulled up a banner and claimed that her whole family was not wrong. Some people also said that she didn't commit suicide but was pushed down by a parent who had lost a child. In short, no one cared. Only Auntie went crazy in prison when she heard this bad news. Someone in the group said it was so tragic. Cindy replied, "What's so tragic? They have ruined so many families and even wanted to harm Luna." This is what they deserve. I didn't say anything. I just glanced at the group chat and turned off the screen. I am preparing materials for going abroad for exchanges. But this is all for later. After the college entrance examination results came out, our class 1 of senior 3 had a meal together. Of course, Natalie was not there. In this life, Ivan did extremely well in the exam and entered a university in Beijing. I am very happy for him. That day, I took out the white dress he bought for me, put it on and put on a light makeup. Everyone was excited and distressed when they saw me, and said congratulations one after another. Only Ivan was far away from me. We didn't speak at all throughout. After eating, the classmates left one by one. On this day, maybe many people will never meet again after saying goodbye. I called Ivan from behind. Did you open and read that little note? His expression was a bit unnatural. No. After all, it's not time when I can't see you yet. I nodded and chuckled. There is a username and password written on the note. There are all the evidences collected by me and Dad stored there. I thought that if I couldn't save my whole family in the end, I know that only you in this world will tell the truth for me. After a moment of astonishment, Ivan's eyes reddened. The person who has always been carefree put on a rare serious expression, #1 in grade. Thank you for trusting me. In fact, I know all about you using me to anger Natalie, contacting my uncle through me to protect you and fight against the Vincents. I'm very happy to be able to help you. Just tell me directly next time. The young man smiled bitterly and sincerely. With a wave of his fair arm, he turned around gracefully, seemingly stirring up the wind of the entire summer. Ivan, come to Tsinghua to find me when school starts. I shouted at his back. The teenager paused in his steps. Turning around, his face flushed all the way to the tips of his ears. Okay, Luna. Epilogue. With the development of the country and the progress of science and technology, both the issue of imposters in college entrance examinations and food safety issues have been significantly improved. It is really a beautiful thing that we can change our destiny through hard work, and it is worth our all-out efforts. At the same time, if you find that your rights have been violated, please don't give up. Stand up bravely and resist. Destiny will surely favor those who are passionate and brave.